Hey everyone, there's been a lot of talk about Paula Broadwell, described as General Petraeus, David Petraeus, who's now the former CIA agent's mistress, saying that the CIA was detaining prisoners and that is the reason for the attack on the U.S. Embassy in an attempt to get those prisoners back. And many people point to a video of her speech at the University of Denver on the 26th of October during an alumni event. She went to the University of Denver, as did, I might add, Secretary Condoleezza Rice. She graduated in '81, much before that Paula Broadwell did. So at any rate, I have that entire video, but it's 41 minutes long. So what I did was I simply got those parts of her speech which are more to the point of concerns of people who've been following this story. So I made some notes here which are going to be in the blog post at xenia62.com or xenia62blog.com. And basically, this is what I've found, is that Paula Broadwell, first of all, this is what Paula Broadwell said about Benghazi, and here is the question that sparked her answer, right here.
Thanks for taking my question. General Petraeus, in his new role, has a very difficult situation now in the center of the situation in Benghazi. Do you have any comment?
Well, just to create some context for those in the room, as you know, the ambassador in Benghazi was killed along with a couple of security agents who happened to be CIA security paramilitary forces. That just came out today in Fox News. But the challenge has been the fog of war. And the greater challenge is that it's political hunting season, and so this whole thing has been turned into a very political sort of arena, if you will. But the facts that came out today were that the ground forces there at the CIA annex, which is different from the consulate, were requesting reinforcements. They were requesting it's called the Sinks in Extremis Force. A group of Delta Force operators are most talented guys we have in the military. They could have come and reinforced the consulate and the CIA annex that were under attack. Now, I don't know if a lot of you have heard this, but the CIA annex had actually had taken a couple of Libyan militia members prisoner, and they think that the attack on the consulate was an effort to try to get these prisoners back. So that's still being vetted. The challenging thing for General Petraeus is that in his new position, he's not allowed to communicate with the press. So he's known all of this. They had correspondence with the CIA station chief in Libya. Within 24 hours, they kind of knew what was happening. But if you remember at the time, the Muslim video, the Muhammad video that came out, the demonstrations that were going on in Cairo, there were demonstrations in 22 other countries around the world, tens of thousands of people. And our government was very concerned that this was going to become a nightmare for us. So you can understand if you put yourself in his shoes or Secretary Clinton's shoes or the president's shoes that we thought it was tied somehow to the demonstrations in Cairo. And it's true that we have signal intelligence that shows the militia members in Libya were watching the demonstration in Cairo, and it did sort of galvanize their effort. So we'll find out the facts soon enough. As a former intel officer, it's frustrating to me because it reveals our sources and methods. I don't think the public necessarily needs to know all of that. It is a tragedy that we lost an ambassador and two other government officials, and there was a failure in the system because there was additional security requested. But it's frustrating to see the sort of political aspect of what's going on with this whole investigation. So the most recent news that came out was a Fox report by Jennifer Griffin. I got it on a distribution list I'm on, and it has some pretty insightful stuff in it.
Now, note that Paula Broadwell later says that Jennifer Griffin of Fox News has insightful information. And here's what she said back.
The most recent news that came out was a Fox report by Jennifer Griffin. I got it on a distribution list I'm on, and it has some pretty insightful stuff in it.
Point I'm making here is that I assert that Paula Broadwell got her information from Jennifer Griffin. What's interesting is that today Jennifer Griffin says, well, Paula Broadwell says the CIA had prisoners. Paula Broadwell wasn't saying that as if to give up a secret. Paula Broadwell was pointing to what she read from Jennifer Griffin. So you see how this is becoming confusing? Because, and this happened on 3 occasions already, the media has not proven its ability to unravel this story appropriately. So you've got in one case, an FBI agent sending shirtless pictures to Jill Kelly when it turned out that the FBI agent was this General John Adams, and may have been General John Adams. Hold on, okay, but also the same FBI agent called 2 Republicans, including Eric Cantor, whereas it's reported he called 1. All right, so you don't know who the other one is, but it's actually the one person. It's the FBI agent that started this to begin with, who has a friendship with Jill Kelly. What kind of friendship? Friends with benefits? Hey, who knows? It's Florida. But the whole point is that this story is so complicated, the media is consistently stepping over itself. And in this case, Jennifer Griffin of Fox News should correct her story, because it turns out the source of the echo chamber isn't Paula Broadwell, it's Jennifer Griffin. Just letting you know that, all right? Now, other tidbits. This is how Paula Broadwell says she met General Petraeus.
So after we left Denver, we went off to Boston, and I studied at the Kennedy School at Harvard. And that's where I met General David Petraeus. I'd never crossed paths with him while in uniform, even though he's a West Pointer. We had alumni events like this, just hadn't had the opportunity to interact with him. He came back to speak about the counterinsurgency manual he had drafted and was publishing and was going to use as a sort of guiding blueprint for how to quell the violence in Iraq. And if you recall, in 2006, that war was at a nadir. About 120,000 U.S. troops were dying each month around May in the middle of that year. I don't think there was a lot of public support for the war. I know that I, as a military officer, reservist at that point, had become ostensibly a conscientious objector. In any case, I started to work with him, not as a military officer, but while I was at Harvard, I also ran the Jepson Center for Counterterrorism Studies at the Fletcher School at Tufts University. And I commissioned students to do research projects that would support his work in Iraq. When he came back from Iraq and the war the violence had subsided for all intents and purposes, and I realized that there was an opportunity to write about this transformational leader. So I proposed writing a dissertation using him as a case study. In the introduction in the book, I kind of talk about how I sealed the deal with him. Our first interview in person was on a run. And I had proposed this because I knew it was a rite of passage for many of his former aides to kind of get in the inner circle. You had to be a runner. Well, I had run in high school. I'd run in college. I'd been a sponsored triathlete when we lived here in Colorado, so I loved physical fitness, but I didn't think he knew anything about me in that regard. So we went for a run. We started at the Pentagon, and I had my recorder. I thought if I asked him questions that he had to give lengthy answers to, he would be more winded than I was. But he was smarter than I was. He'd say yes or no, or he'd just ask a question in return or say, that's classified, next. Anyhow, at some point, at about mile 3 or 4, he started to pick up the pace. And I knew this was coming. I called it the boiling frog approach, because you don't know that the water's getting hotter and hotter. In any case, I realized what was going on, and I decided to shut off the recorder and race him. And I was told never to beat him. Keep up with him, and it's the rite of passage, but don't beat him, because he's a guy, you're a girl, and he's a celebrity, and you're a soccer mom. In any case, he started elbowing me, and it was over. So, long story short, I did beat him. We got down to a 6-minute mile pace, and I later found out that he was going through radiation treatment for prostate cancer.
Now, the entire video is over at another link, which I'm going to provide at the end of this. But if that link is taken down, let me know, because I have the entire video. It's news, and it should be put out there as news for fair use. That's it.